I'm Amy Pruitt.
I'm Lisa Dumas.
I teach Ayurveda and yoga.
I teach yoga. I'm a yoga therapist in training, and I offer transformational coaching. But that's just part of the story.
We're moms, daughters, wives, and friends. We're always learning, and we've both experienced healing by what we teach.
And the intention of this podcast is to offer you our favorite tools from the traditions and sciences that support us as we navigate the realities and stressors of modern life.
Each week, we'll share stories, answer your questions, and talk to others who inspire us.
Welcome to the Radiant Warrior Podcast.
Yoga and Ayurveda to reclaim a courageous heart.
Amy, we've come to the end of the first official week of September. It is now officially Vata season, which we'll explain a little bit more within this episode. How is it going for you?
It's going very quick. It feels very chaotic right now.
So you're right on point with Vata season then.
Totally. I am living and breathing Vata season. I am feeling Vata out of balance.
Vata, one of the Ayurvedic doshas connected to air and ether. It's mobile, it is chaotic, it's turbulent, and it arises for all of us a little bit more in the fall when you look outside and you see wind and it's breezy days blowing around dry leaves. So what we see on the outside, we tend to feel on the inside. So if those of you listening feel like the mind is feeling a little bit busier these days, that's no accident, and know that it's not your fault. It's the time of year as well. And that contributes to how we feel on the inside.
Totally. I feel like I'm having a hard time concentrating or making decisions and having a hard time focusing.
So you're a great candidate for what we call Vata balancing, when we realize that we're feeling kind of spacey and it is hard to focus. There's certain breath techniques that we can do. There's certain ways of eating, putting ourselves on schedules. Again, we don't want to create rules for ourselves. These are all just gentle practices, but there are tools, there are techniques that we can use when we feel this way, because balance is this never-ending process. We're never, just because we mention Vata balancing, I don't know if that ever means that we feel 100% of the time, but it's like life gives us clues, right? You feel a little chaotic and out of focus right now, and you know that will change, and you know that there are some things that you can do to support yourself.
I'm trying to implement the practices that we preach, and one of the barriers is when you are feeling Vata out of balance, it's hard to remember what those are sometimes. So it's nice to have a toolkit at the ready when fall comes and the wind blows and you feel it in the mind and the body, and then bringing yourself back to the practices that ground you.
I feel like I'm recovering from the last few days of summer, because here in Canada, kids don't go back to school, or the fall schedule doesn't really kick in until just a couple of days ago. And I know for you, fall schedule has been underway for a couple of weeks. But here it's just a few days in, and over the Labor Day long weekend, I know that I was staying up later than maybe serves me. I'm working on not making everything worse by berating myself. Like if I stay up a little bit later because we're completely addicted to this show, Ray Donovan, we're late on the Ray Donovan train. I know that. We've been hearing about it for a long time, and it's very compelling. We love it. Staying up a little bit late, enjoying some non-dairy ice cream while I stay up late, knowing that doesn't make me feel great the next day. So me too, not always practicing what I preach, not always doing what is absolutely best for me, which is part of the whole idea of balance. It's doing the best we can most of the time.
Right. Not being 100% perfect all the time.
Oh, that would be too exhausting. And I think that in my experience with the clients that I work with, part of the reasons that we feel overwhelmed and exhausted is because we're adding on comparison into the mix and what we should be doing what we think we should be doing rather than what we are doing. So we come from this place constantly of not being good enough. And we add that lens to our busy schedules. And then that in turn feels very overwhelming. And all of this to say that this is why Aimee and I have chosen the season of fall to launch something very exciting. And we're ready to tell you about that now. Also, coming up in this episode, some personal stories about how we have been using what we teach. But first, we would like to cordially invite you to spend each week with us, maybe even for a full year, in a new program that we call A Radiant Year, From Surviving to Thriving, a chance to move beyond anxiety, exhaustion, and overwhelm and open to vitality and joy. We decided to combine the best of what we've learned over the past decade and put it into one really beautiful course. And it's going to be launching in just a couple of weeks' time at the end of September. We'll tell you a specific date as that gets closer. But in the meantime, we'll tell you a little bit about what that means. What would you say, Aimee, are your wellness goals for your body, your mind, and your heart?
My wellness goals are to feel vibrant and vital and strong in my body. For my heart to live with an open heart, even if life is rough sometimes. I always want to be learning and growing and expanding. We overestimate what we can do in a day, and we underestimate what we can do in a year. I have seen that in my own life over the past few years of this growth and expansion using Ayurveda and yoga. And I just feel like these tools that we have learned and that we would like to offer back are so powerful and so healing so quickly and so accessible to everybody. Those are my goals for my body and my mind and my heart.
Well, this question, dear listeners, what are your wellness goals for your body, your mind, and your heart, are what Aimee and I would like to get you thinking about as we offer our answers. For the next little while, for my body is to focus a little bit more on sleep. Now, there are times when it is challenging to get enough sleep. So let's not add shame in there if it's not the time for you where you're getting a lot of sleep. You know, I know people who have new babies. That's not a great time for a lot of sleep. Or sometimes what you're birthing is a really amazing creative idea, or you are in the midst of starting a big project. Sometimes sleep can be elusive, and that's okay. But if we can do everything in our power that is appropriate to support sleep, you know, for me, as I mentioned, I could definitely be turning off the television a little bit earlier. And I got out of that habit within the summer. And, you know, the summer, the structure was just a little bit more flexible, which is fine. But I have intention to rest a little bit more. That's for my body. For my mind, similar goal as you. I also love to be learning. And in fact, I'm on my way to another module in my yoga therapy school in upstate New York. So check, check, check. I'm very excited about the course description of what's coming up. And for my heart, I've been really open here that I am actively engaged in practices to help me connect with compassion and compassion for my family and my friends and for myself. And the answers to that question for you who are listening here, those are the answers that you're invited to take with you into our course, A Radiant Year. Because Aimee and I intend to inspire you and encourage you to spend just a little time each week moving in the direction of those desires. In A Radiant Year, if you choose to join us, each and every week, we're going to send you a video recording of a very rich and thoughtfully designed class that we will create that is themed for each season. So, for instance, we're launching this course at the end of September. So an example of what your first class might be that arrives in your inbox for you to take in your own time in the comfort of your own home. We certainly don't want to add another appointment to your already busy schedule. This is why we'll send you a video. We'll send you so much rich content to go along with that. Lots of opportunity for self-discovery and self-study, but you watch it at your own time. And an example of a class that would arrive in this season would be ways in which you can balance this idea of Vata. We'll also explain the doshic model and how it can be such a great healing resource. And an example of what we'll teach is actually something that came up with a client recently, Aimee. Right now, as schedules seem to heat up, it's not just that we feel physically busier. I feel that our minds are busier. Would you agree?
Totally.
So a couple of the tools that you might find in our program are the ability to start to become present to what you're thinking about. And typically, we're thinking and we're not noticing that we're thinking. And then suddenly we're feeling stressed because we feel incredibly overwhelmed. And we're asking ourselves, how are we going to fit it all in? How are we going to do it all? Because our brain has just told us about 150 tasks that we have to do by dinner time. So it's so powerful to understand the way the brain works. And it's powerful to understand something called the negativity bias. We're always looking for what's going wrong, and then we're always finding evidence for why it's wrong. We need to learn how to stop in our tracks and get present and breathe. We need to learn the right questions to ask ourselves so that we can actually question if our thoughts are true or not. And then a couple of tools that I offered this particular client. What Aimee and I will do, our intention is to have you explore several different tools and techniques each week. And then by the end of the month or the end of the year, if you choose to stay with us for a year, you can personalize this toolkit for yourself. And you'll have these techniques at the ready whenever you need them because you've had some time to explore them, maybe when you didn't need them. But for this particular client, her lens was, I'm never going to get it all done. So I took her through the process of questioning that, which feels like such a relief. But also, what's important is to remember all of the times when you did get it all done. Our memories are a part of us, and we tend to wallow in the negative memories or in the what ifs or the what next or these thoughts of doom. But what about choosing to think about the times when you could handle it, which is most of the time? I mean, the reality is we do get through those to-do lists. The reality is we tend to be able to handle it for the most part. And so we have these positive memories at the ready to create an inner resource. If your worries tend to be fear-based, it's nice to remember a time when you felt really strong and brave, and then cultivate that feeling because that feeling is a part of you as well. But for this client, it was helpful for her to think about the times when she did successfully accomplish something, when she did feel accomplished, and heading into her each day, heading into her new fall schedule with that empowering feeling rather than the exhaustion that can come from putting so much energy into worry. What can plague me is the pitta mind, which is a little bit more of a hard driving mind that is filled with shoulds and, not enough and striving. It's very attached to being defined by how much you complete. And the other tools that I offered this client and that are available in our course are tools for that pitta mind. And pitta likes to open the heart. If it feels like each day is filled with have tos and shoulds, can there be 5 minutes where you listen to a beautiful song and sing along, or you read something inspiring? This is why we like podcasts so much, because it gets us out of our own way of thinking. We only have this one brain, but to listen to perspectives of other people, it starts to enlighten us to a new way of thinking and inspire us.
I agree. I could listen to podcasts all day long and listen to people's stories and relate to their triumphs and their struggles.
And that's part of what we'll offer in the course as well. Each week, the class that will be delivered to you will be very different. We'll be sharing our experiences with you. Some weeks, depending on what we're teaching, there'll be movement so that you can feel stronger in your body as well as strengthen your boundaries. Some weeks, it'll be some inquiry and inner contemplation. There'll be tools for the mind, the heart, and the body.
Yeah, and we'll get to know each other a lot better and spend time together and be there to support each other through everything that we're going through. And it's just going to be a full, vibrant year that we'll get
Mm-hmm.
to spend together.
If you decide to join us, you never know, by this time next year, your life could look much differently.
It really is such a passion of mine to offer these gifts that have helped me over the course of the past couple years heal my body and mind and heart with Ayurveda and yoga. And I really love being witness, partnering with people as they use these tools to return to joy and open their hearts and return to their true nature. It just is the greatest gift of my life to be able to be a part of that in somebody else's journey. For example, one of the things that I'm very passionate about is helping women in particular give themselves permission to not be so perfect, to not overschedule themselves. I think we are in this world of trying to keep up with everyone around us and these expectations that we either put on ourselves or that have been put on us maybe by family members or partners or coworkers. One of the things that I am very passionate about is helping women return to themselves by looking at their schedules. Where could they edit? Where are the have tos and the maybe not have tos? And what is required of them and what is not required of them, and having them be very authentic in what they want out of their life. And we do that through deep self-examination, through journaling, through movement practices. I have had great success working with women about creating rituals that support them as far as ways to create boundaries in their lives, whether it's boundaries with their thoughts, boundaries with their bodies, boundaries with their schedules. Those are the things that I am so passionate about sharing with others through this podcast, through this new exciting course that we're offering. There are so many ways that you can find this joy, find this vitality in your life. And one of the ways that I can tap into that is by creating ritual, whether it's rituals around the way you prepare your food, the mindful, loving, thoughtful way that you prepare your food for yourself. How do you nourish yourself? How do you nourish yourself, not just with the foods that you eat, but how do you nourish yourself with the people that you have around you, with your environment? Do you love your environment? Do you love your home? Do you love the paint on your walls? Does it bring you joy? Those are all the things that I just love examining with clients so that they have created this life that supports them.
It's so exciting to create a life of meaning. You know, whether you're listening to this right now and your story was a lot like mine, that you see yourself in my story, you feel that you have anxiety, you feel as though it's anxiousness that plagues you. Maybe you feel that you do worry quite often and the contents of your inner dialogue is fairly unkind, and you wish that you could be a little nicer to yourself or feel a little bit more energetic. The Radiant Year is a program that will offer you a chance to do things like reclaim a new morning routine so that you get to set yourself up to meet the coming day on your own terms. At this time of year, We have these morning routines that maybe we haven't for an entire summer, and it can be jarring. We'll encourage you to set it up so that you have a little bit of time for yourself to take care of you before you take care of others. We intend to arm you with techniques to set boundaries, as Aimee said, in difficult relationships, to be guided by emotions rather than being controlled by them. That's a big one. And we'll have classes that break down all of the different emotions and what we can learn from them, how we can be guided by them, what we can ask ourselves in the face of them, and how we can gather lessons from them in order to continue to evolve. On this journey, we intend to deliver you really rich offerings to help you to more go with the flow of life. We often feel stuck. The practice and concepts that we will present you may help you stay more balanced with the seasons as well. So there'll be our first opportunity to join a radiant year coming up at the end of September. We'll open the doors seasonally once again. So you could spend a few months with us, or you can choose to take a journey for an entire year. And we'll be telling you more about what that looks like in coming episodes. In the meantime, you can head to our Facebook page, Radiant Warrior Podcast, or our Instagram page. As Ashley Turner said when she was a guest on the show, we're just doing it. This is something we've been dreaming about. We so appreciate all of our listeners so much, and we wanted to create even more of a community. We wanted to come together, and we wanted to grow together.
I think that's what's so exciting is we do this podcast and we meet with clients one-on-one or in small groups, but to have this opportunity to actually connect with the people that listen to us around the world is just so thrilling for me to be able to share these tools and gifts to that audience.
And in the meantime, we're taking your questions on Facebook and on Instagram of how to get in on this and be a founding member in a radiant year. The program will launch the last week of September.
Yes, with the fall equinox.
Right after the fall equinox, we thought that that was a perfect time to begin offering you different ways to stay as balanced as we can with the season of fall and take on Vata season like you never have before with these empowering tools.
We can't wait to see you.
Can't wait to meet you. I'll see you soon, Aimee. Headed your way.
I know. I can't wait.
Love you.
Love you.
Thank you for listening to the Radiant Warrior podcast. If you found it valuable, please leave us a positive review to help others find it.
And please check out the Radiant Warrior podcast on Instagram and Facebook to leave us your questions and find out where you can come and practice with us next.